Hello. So as many have asked, I have decided to reciprocate, I think that's the right word, and show you how I do my foundation, what tricks I use, products I use definitely. I also want to talk about tools that you can use while applying foundation, because different tools give you different effects, like how your foundation applies. So yeah, and I'm gonna use everything from the drugstore today, simply because it's most common, and I know not everybody wants to spend a lot of money on makeup, or has the ability to. So I figured drugstore is a good way to, you know, start off and show you. So the first thing I always do prior to putting on any primer, any foundation, is moisturize. I think moisturizing is really important. For me, I have combination skin. So what that essentially means is that in wintertime my skin can get dry, and in summertime my skin can get oily, but on the regular it's both. So that is why I moisturize. I also think it also just helps everything go on better. So that, what I showed there was the Nivea Essentials 24-hour moisture boost. So that is my moisturizer. I also use an oil, this one here. I don't use a lot of this one. I just kind of dab it on my finger like that. And I do this, like I said, during winter time, because I do need just the extra moisture, and I like having dewy skin. Also, if I look down over here, it's because that's where my mirror is. Once that is in, give it a little bit to settle. The next thing you want to go in with is primer. Some people say primer doesn't work, some people swear by it. Ever since I've used it, I can't do foundation without primer. I think it helps make, again, it go on smoother. It definitely helps make it last all throughout the day. I will let everybody know there are obviously different kinds of primers. There are heaps of primers you could use. There are color correcting ones, so that is the purples, the greens, the oranges that you can see in different tubes. The two I have a dewy one from Wet n Wild, and then the Fresh and Fit Awake primer. So just know essentially what kind of skin you have, what kind of makeup look you're going for, and then find your primer to go with that. The other thing too, I've noticed in my experience, is you don't want to mix and match your primer. So for example, when I want a dewy look, I'll use a dewy primer, right? If I want a matte look, I'd use a matte primer. I wouldn't really use a matte primer with a dewy foundation, because to me that it doesn't really make sense to me. If you're someone who has oily skin, I wouldn't recommend a dewy primer. To use is both of these. I also combine mine. I like to use the Wet n Wild ones on my cheeks with my highlighter. I don't know if people have seen this, but on YouTube or even like Instagram videos, you'll see people slather on highlighter, like just stark lines where it's just like, I don't like that. Again, everything with makeup, I do want to say, is to each their own. If you like what you've been doing, keep doing it. I'm just showing those who have asked how I do mine. The Fresh and Fit by Essence. This one is a pore minimizing with a healthy glow. And this one, I use a little bit of, and goes in my T-zone. This one is definitely a thicker primer than the Wet n Wild one, for sure. If you're looking for a really good drugstore primer that's pore minimizing, I would recommend the Maybelline Baby Skin one. That one's a really good dupe, I think, for the Smashbox Photofocus. They have a really good, they have a similar consistency. Okay, so that, you can see, gives my skin a nice glow. The next thing is foundation. Actually, that's a lie. Before that, if you're someone who has redness, like rosacea, which can happen around your cheeks or in your forehead, or you have dark under eye circles, it's kind of like severe redness around your nose, now could be a time if you wanted to color correct. Color correct, again, is the different colors that you see. That's the green, the orange, the purple, and those essentially counteract the colors that are on your skin. So green you would put for red, or the reddish orange tends to go under the eyes because it counteracts dark blue circles. You just tap that on how you see fit, and then after that you can put your foundation on top. So that's just a little side note for anybody who deals with redness, or dark circles. The foundations from the drugstore that I like, I have 4. 2 are from the same brand, and then I have e.l.f. and Physicians Formula. So for example, foundation wise, I think Maybelline has the best foundation at the drugstore. The FitMe range, you can get this at either Walmart or the Superstore in Canada for like $6. If it's on sale, it can go down to $5.98, and honestly, I think it is an unreal foundation. I have the Super Stay Full Coverage, and this I use when I've self-tanned, and then I also have the Moisturizing Foundation Stick from e.l.f., which I really like. I am like at the bottom of it. And then I have the Organic Wear Physicians Formula Natural Origin Work It Tinted Moisturizer. I just want to point out, this to me is more like, it's super thick when it comes out. Usually light, I would say light coverage foundations are thinner. This is thick. Like, it's thicker, I would say, than those two. So typically what I do is I like full foundation, not cakey foundation. I like coverage. I don't have bad skin. I have these spots here, but I definitely don't have my teenage skin anymore. God bless. But I know that some people do have, you know, acne and stuff like that. So again, foundation products are tricky. It really just depends on your skin type. For myself, like I said, being combination, I like the FitMe. These ones have worked for me. What I would do is I would take the FitMe, not the FitMe, sorry, the e.l.f. foundation stick, and this is in Nude, and I dot it like that. And then I take a liquid, and I simply use a liquid one because it helps blend out, I find, the stick foundation. Sometimes I use this. I find it a bit dark, to be honest, so I go in with the Maybelline FitMe, and I just dot it around like that. And when I blend in my foundation, I use a brush. A brush typically would give you the fullest coverage. I do have beauty sponges. I have both Beauty Blender. I have a Beauty Blender, and I have the Real Techniques sponge as well. And I do use the Real Technique one typically to apply pressed powder and not pressed powder, loose powder, and to do the concealer under my eyes. But this is, and I always drag it down my neck too, because you obviously want the foundation to match your skin. And so I just bring it down like that. And again, tools do matter for how you want your foundation to look. Again, brushes will be a more full coverage. This brush I got from Amazon, I got a set. And a really good one from the drugstore is the e.l.f. powder blurring brush. It looks like this, and it's a dense. The one thing with foundation brushes you will notice is that they will be dense. And what dense means is essentially there's a lot of bristles in a small space. So that'll give you full coverage. Sponges, they can give you medium to full coverage. You just have to build it up, and they also soak up product, so you kind of go through product more with sponges. The next thing I do is concealer, and I really like the Maybelline FitMe. It does the job, and I just realized I did not wipe my sponge. Mother trucker. I take my sponge and I blend my concealer. I also really only use concealer under my eyes, and I don't use a lot. And I also put it on my eyelids. I read somewhere that people are like, don't put concealer on your eyes, it'll crease, it'll this, it'll that. Well, it'll crease if you don't set. Anything that you put on your face, essentially, that you don't set, that's liquid, has the opportunity to crease. But you can see that it has brightened up underneath my eye. My nose is always the tricky part for foundation. And yeah, if you have to add a bit more, totally fine. Again, whatever works. So that is my foundation and concealer done. The next thing I would do is powder. I don't have a pressed powder from the drugstore. I only have my MAC one. I have a loose powder, which is the Maybelline FitMe. This is good if you want to bake. I can show you. Yeah, so I'll just show you essentially what baking is. So you can take the lid, get some powder, and again, you can take your sponge, dip it in, and put it under your eye. And this just really sets everything in place. And when you bake, essentially the term means that you are keeping you're keeping it on for a long time before you wipe it off. So I'll do that for the video's sake. You would then also, not then, but then I would take my pressed powder. This is NC20 by MAC, and a flat top powder brush. So this is the same as the foundation. It's just for powder. I use it for powder instead. So I swirl it in that, cap it off, and press like that. Now when I powder, and kind of like my cheeks and forehead, or what I do, but that is, and I also kind of just cruise over my eyelids. This is also the length that I bake for. I don't bake for very long. I just take a brush and sweep it away. So now is bronzing and contouring, and what that essentially does is brings back the color to your face that you took away with foundation, because I look all one color. What I have from the drugstore, that is powder. That I have a couple. So I have the Wet n Wild contour one, which looks like this. This one is in caramel toffee. So there's the banana shade and the contour shade. I have one from L'Oreal, which is their Glam bronze. And that looks like that. I have two more. I have e.l.f. This is their kind of knockoff of the Orgasm and what is it? Laguna bronzer from NARS. And then from Milani, I have a baked one in 04 Glow, which looks like that. So what I do is I'll use the Wet n Wild one. I use a fluffy brush that looks like this. So this one you use for bronzer because it's not dense like the foundation one. So if you use one like the foundation where it would be dense, what you'd essentially be doing is packing on more color, whereas with this you can lightly dust it and build up the color. So you can just get some on the brush, tap off the excess, and then I always start on my forehead because my forehead is ginormous. And there is a saying that you use the figure 3, which is true. So I start my forehead like that, and then I do my cheeks. And the one thing too, if you have the time, is take your time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, you know, spending an extra 5 minutes on your makeup if you need it, or if there's a certain aspect of your makeup that needs more time than, you know, a different aspect. So for example, my face I spend more time on than my eyeshadows, because my eyeshadows I can kind of just whip and get them done pretty quickly, whereas my face, my foundation and stuff, I want that to look more put together. Yeah, that's kind of the bronzer that I would use. Now you can use obviously other ones to deepen it. The L'Oreal Glam bronze is really good, so I'll just use that as an example. And when I do want to use or be more contoured, then I would go in with an angled brush that is a bit more dense. And again, getting rid of the excess. And this I put strictly on the hollows, and you can see that it just darkens it up. And you also want to make sure when you're bronzing that you go into your hairline, because otherwise you're gonna have, honestly, like a ring around your forehead. So that is bronzer. And what is next? Blusher. I really like Luminoso by Milani, and I have some from BH. These 3 here are from BH and they're really nice. This one is from Covergirl and it's called Rose Glow. This is my blush brush. So this one is like the one I use for contouring, except for it's not as dense. This one's way more bristles. So this one's nice to just, you take it, excess off, and just put it on the high points of your cheek, kind of where your highlighter would go as well. And I do layer blush quite frequently. That it's actually one thing that I do. So that's the rose gold, and then I can take this muted pink and I just go on top. Now again, this can be a lot of makeup to somebody, which is totally fine. This is just what I do. And again, I blend it. And then after that is highlighter, if you're a highlighter kind of person. The only drugstore highlighters I use are by Wet n Wild. It's their MegaGlo. Is that right? Yeah, so this one's pushing, oh no, Blossom Glow. And I actually have a brush. This came with the Milani bronzer, but it works really well for my highlighter. So I take it and swirl it, and this just goes on the high points. So right like that. Put it on my eyebrow. I will say, if you have textured skin, highlighters will accentuate that. Because that's essentially what highlighters do, right? They're light and they're highlighting the area. So if you have, I don't know if you can see, but if you have, you know, pimples or anything like that, or acne in that area, if you put highlighter on it, more often than not, it will be texturized. Just keep that in mind. If you like a super blinding highlight, what you can do is spritz your face with some setting spray. I use the Wet n Wild stuff. So you take it. This is also what I do when I'm done my face makeup anyways. So I take a brush. And then when my face is still wet, I take my brush and I just swirl right on. Okay, so I'm back. It's been a little bit because the camera died. Like I said, you can spritz your cheek and then take a more defined pencil and just, you know, add some extra highlight. I don't really need anymore, but for a second video, I'm going to. And then, just because, I'm just going to add some mascara. This is Dior Show in black. I'm just going to use a little bit. There we go. So yeah, just to touch back on what I said earlier about foundations, it's definitely important to find one that is suitable to your skin type. So when you're oily, maybe try a matte one. If you're matte, try a dewy one. I recommend moisturizing. If you are oily, definitely try powdering. You might even want to try baking. That's something that could work for you. And again, look at the tools that you're using. So again, sponges give medium to full coverage depending on how you build it up. Brushes are more full coverage. Hands can be sheer as well. Color correcting, you know, if you have redness, you can put some green on top. If you have dark circles, you can use orange. And yeah, but again, at the end, you know, I do want to reiterate that makeup is a personal choice. Whether you choose to wear it, use a little, use a lot, it all is, you know, up to you and what you like. But this is how I do mine for those who ask. So thanks for watching. If you guys have any other questions or want to know how I do anything else, I was thinking of maybe doing an eyeshadow basics video, just showing literally like how you can apply eyeshadow to different eye shapes, because I've noticed watching YouTube videos that they'll do a look, which is cool, but not everybody has the same eye shape as a person doing the tutorial. So, you know, I was thinking of doing a video on that. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I hope you guys like it, and maybe see you in my next video. Bye.